Today's voiceover talent is more than just a pretty voice. Today's voiceover talent has to be a boss, a VO boss. Set yourself up with business owner strategies and success with your host, Anne Ganguzza, along with some of the strongest voices in our industry. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss.
Welcome, everybody, to the B.O.S.S podcast. I'm your host, Anne Ganguzza, along with my lovely, beautiful co-host, Gabby Nistico. Hey, Gabby.
Hello.
And today, Gabby, we have an extra special guest, someone, I believe, that comes from your neck of the woods, very close to you.
Yep.
One of my personal favorite people that took me forever to meet. I've known him forever. And I think it took me, I want to say, like 6 years to meet him after I met him for the first time. We have some familiar roots in IT together. It is George Washinton III. Hey, George.
Hello.
George,
Yay,
thank you
George.
so much for joining us. I'm so excited that you took time off of your busy day, because I know how busy you are. You're like crazy busy, to chat with us for actually a second time.
These things happen. Technology's a beautiful thing.
Technology is right, and we know that. Technology is a beautiful thing. The first time we met with George, we had, I think, the most perfect podcast ever. And
snafu.
we were failed.
Yeah.
We were failed by our
Yeah.
own computer technology that didn't
Yeah.
save the file. Bum, bum, bum.
Womp womp.
I'm so excited you're here today, and because, as I mentioned before, you have been in the industry a long time, and you are such a successful VO boss. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about how you got started in the industry.
Well, I was working for First Union National Bank at the time, back in 2002, I believe, is when I started doing on-camera work for them. Now, I was in IT, I was doing tech support and that sort of thing. Was walking to an elevator, got on an elevator, and a woman named Elizabeth Taylor was on the elevator. So, yes, George Washinton and Elizabeth Taylor were in an elevator. Sounds like a terrible, terrible joke, but it really happened. And we talked about what she did, and she asked me, would I be interested in hosting some of their videos that they do for internal work? And I said, sure. So I did that, hosted a couple of them. They had me go down to one of our local studios here, Concentrix Music and Sound Design here in Charlotte, and they wanted me to record some voiceovers there. So I went and did that, and I asked them, so what does it take to kind of get to do voiceover like as a thing? And they said, well, come back with scripts, and we will help you make your demo. So I left and worked on them, books and all these things, about 6 months, came back, recorded my demos, they put them together, and I started working officially in 2003. Well, there you go.
And now you spent a good bit of time, I know, still kind of juggling, balancing your IT career and voiceover. How long did it take you to make the leap to VO full time?
Well, some of that leap was partially a push, in that when I was working for the bank, they decided about a year after the Wells Fargo-Wachovia merger that my services were no longer required. And I decided at that point, well, better get started working on some real stuff. And so that was probably not until 2009. And so I've dipped in and out of that since then, but I've been primarily doing voiceover work and trying to do things that are more related to that area of what I do.
Now, George, I know you from way back when, because my brother-in-law, who actually owns a production company in New Jersey, used you a whole bunch. And he said to me, hey, Ann, do you know this guy? His name's George Washinton III. And I'm like, yeah, I do, actually. And so it's funny because he was just in love with you and used you for quite a bit of his production work. So tell us a little bit about, starting back in the early 2000s, what was your key? How did you get so ingrained in the industry? Because you were sought after as a voice talent. What was it that you did to network yourself and get yourself out there?
Well, I started out with the information that was given to me by Concentrix of all places. They said, after you finish your demo here, send it to this person, and this person in these studios. And so, send it to them. They tell me, well, we'll let you know when we can put you on roster. they did. I've been on the rosters for a while. And then it's a lot of work in reaching out to people, email, agents, all of those things that a lot of us have to do. Some of it was working with Gabby. Gabby and I worked together. The reason we know each other, we met each other at Bob's Sour I think it was a lunch.
Yeah, it was like just a voiceover lunch get together, and then he dropped the bomb on us that he was moving.
Exactly.
We all went, no!
But wait. And I started working with Gabby there, and we came up with the idea for my branding with VO Evolution. And then I started working on getting that stuff spread out, find those production companies, find those studios, get your information to them so they can see it.
George, if I can just say that I really love that you mentioned that and the amount of work that you put into actually getting on rosters and reaching out and networking with, companies and production companies and stuff like that. Because I think in light of the recent events that are happening in the industry, I think people were getting so dependent on one source of, getting their name out there or getting work that it's really maybe come back to, really reaching out to people on your own as a voiceover business and networking with those production companies and getting on rosters. And I think that is probably a sure reason as to why you're so successful today is because people found you on the rosters and you provided a great service, a great voice, and they just came back again and again.
Well, it's necessary. We can't depend on one path or one source. The faucet can get turned off. So you better have another faucet somewhere else. You can't just go with one way. One way will let you down eventually. You can't depend on the one because things change. As much as we like to think as voice artists that we have our business in our hands and we're in control, you're only in control as far as the other people on the other end want to keep using you. And that is something you cannot change. Sometimes they just want to go in the quote-unquote different direction. And 99% of the time, that different direction doesn't include you. You have to be ready to have other sources and other ways to find places to get your work.
Yeah, George, I know too, and this is just from knowing you as long as I have and having had the pleasure of working with you and also seeing you as a bit of an answer guy when it comes to technology and our industry. You're kind of my number one go-to whenever there's some new innovative thing or app or system that is taking over voiceover. You're always right there on top of it. How have you managed to do that, and how has that impacted your voice career?
Well, part of it is because I come from that IT background and I like to learn new things and learn new systems and the like. That when something new comes along that I can get my hands on, I like to try it out and see how it works. And that gives me an opportunity to be on maybe not a bleeding edge, but at least know what people are talking about and be able to be able to contribute to conversations and say, well, how about this? Try this. Here's an option. I always want to be able to make what I do easier. For instance, one of the things that I was running into while I'm doing a lot of juggling is on occasion missing auditions, right? Because they come in email, they end up getting lost in your email and you may not remember to go back to it in email. So I'm gotten into the habit of it's in email, I on my phone or wherever, and I send it to Todoist, my to-do list application I'm using, and I sort it into audition or production. So when I am home, I go into Todoist, I say, what do I have to do today? My production stuff or audition stuff, and you go through and get it all done. That way I don't miss stuff. And that's just using other tools to get the main job done.
George, can you spell that? What is that, Todoist or to-do list?
Todoist. Todoist.
I know last time we talked, George, there were a lot of other really cool apps and things that you were using that were very influential in your voice career. Can you kind of go back to those and reintroduce us?
Yeah. The one that I've really found super helpful right now is a tool called Quadro. Now, Quadro runs on iPads and iPhones and the like. And what it lets you do is run keystroke combinations on any application that is running on the computer that it's connected to at the time. So, for instance, I use Adobe Audition as my primary tool for recording. I have created in Quadro what they call a palette of commands that I can use in Audition. And it's simple stuff: record, stop, play, scrub left, scrub right, undo, new audio file. What that allows me to do is, when I'm in the booth and I have a monitor in here, I have Audition up, I don't have to go back out to the keyboard to do a new file, to start recording or stop recording or add cue markers. I can just hit a button on my iPad and it'll do it. The biggest part of that, yeah, I love it. And the coolest thing about it is, when you use Audition, one of the problems everybody has pointed out is Audition does not have punch and roll built into it because there's no pre-roll setting. Mm-hmm. However, with Quadro, I set up a way to do punch and roll in Audition. If I make a mistake, I stop, I put the cursor where I want it to start over, and I hit the 5-second punch button that I made. It deletes everything in front of it, backs up 5 seconds, plays those 5 seconds, hits record, and I go on.
Nice.
Wow.
That sounds great.
So it's a really cool to have these sort of things that kind of streamline it. Yeah, I still have to have a mouse in here sometimes, and I have a wireless mouse, but it's better than having to cart my wireless keyboard in here and all that sorts of stuff. It also, Quadro has a keyboard built into it, so if you need to type one, little short things, file names or whatever, you can just bring up the keyboard, type it in, put it back down, your palette is still there.
VO evolution indeed. This is why your brand fits you so well. You are this guy. You are always on top
evolving.
Of, yeah, and the things that are innovating this industry, and I love that.
Go tech.
Go tech.
Go IT.
This is it's the nerd part of me, and that I really want to be able to do those things. Now, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not like a lot of the people that we know who are really into the audio portion of it, but I can work with the other parts of it that just get us started, and can make some of the outside parts of it a little smoother.
Wow. So, George, I love how you use the technology to help make you more efficient. It allows you to do a lot of different aspects, and I think I can identify with that because I have a lot of, and Gabby too, we have a lot of different aspects of our careers that we like to have a hand in. Like, I am a voiceover artist and we do B.O.S.S, and, I do VO peeps. And so I love how we can become more efficient, and you especially, with embracing the technology. And I think it's something that our listeners, I always encourage, if you can, to just embrace the technology and go with it, because it's going to help you be more productive.
Absolutely. I'll give you one more example. I've been doing on occasion these kind of email campaigns. They're more of top of mind than anything, to just say, hey, I'm here. If you need me, give me a call. Mm-hmm. And the way I do that is I have a program on my phone called IFTTT. If this, then that. Ooh. What it does is and the way I've got in this particular instance, it is going out and getting NASA's astronomy photo of the day and NASA's regular photo of the day, and it copies them to an Evernote notebook. So when I get ready to do the new mailing, and I'm going to set up 6 to 8 weeks at a time, I have a whole cache of pictures that I can put in for each week. Because I'm trying to go across, I love space and space science and all that. And so I have a new cache of pictures that I can just draw from and put it right there. And I don't have to go look for them. They're all right there for me to get.
That's fantastic. That's a great tool. And that you can find on the web, I believe, right?
Yes. If this, then that. And it works, like I said, it works on iPhones and iPads, and it can do a ton of things. It connects the different applications that are on your phone, and they can pass information. Like, for instance, when you post on Instagram, it can automatically archive that photo in an Evernote notebook, so you have all that stuff and you know what you posted when.
And Evernote, I noticed that I know a few people that have a love for that program. Evernote. Yes. What does it help you do?
Well, Evernote is the external brain, right? I don't have to remember every single thing, but if I want to come back to it, If, like, for instance, there's an article that I want to remember and come back to, I can click on what they call the web clipper in my browser, and it'll copy that page into whatever notebook I designate. And I can tell it, put a tag on it, so this is tagged in a group of things that I'm going to come back to. So it can help you organize things and keep things together. I have in my Evernote a page that is links to each one of the copies of finished files that I have. So any finished commercials, narrations, and that sort of thing. So when somebody says, do you have some samples? Here they are. 20, 30 of them, all linked right there. I don't have to go searching through a bunch of files. It's all right there in Evernote.
That's amazing. And so on top of all of this, on top of all of these amazing tools that you're always incorporating into your voiceover business, you're also a daddy. You have 2 kids in college. You've got, if I remember right, the youngest is in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then your middle child is now not high school.
A junior. She's a junior.
Junior. Oh my gosh. So yeah, she is. And you also have this amazing music career, and you were a music major and have a beautiful singing voice, and somehow still find time for all of this, and I have no idea how you do it.
Well, not a lot of sleep all the time. And, a lot of it is, sometimes you have to choose, you got to choose your battles. And I sing less now because what I used to do, I used to sing with Opera Carolina. And the time that you take to rehearse and perform, love it, because you get time with people and you're performing with real professionals. But it takes a lot of time. And so I've kind of drawn back from doing as much of that, and I sing when I can. So I had to find time to do this. I teach at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I'm the campus director there. I left from there to come and do this interview, after helping out with, I have students there who are trying to get ready to do their news packages and the like. So I've been working with them. I have some who want to be voice actors, and I tell them, hold your horses. I don't just, make sure you're getting coached, and trying to do some things, the right way there. So a lot of it is a lot of juggling, but, it's life, and there's always going to be juggling.
So, George, one quick question. I mean, because we could talk to you for days on end, and I'm sure we'll come back around and have you on the podcast again in the future. But I think something that's amazing about you as a voice actor, as well, forget voice actor, as a human being, is the fact that you are this amazing blend of right brain, left brain. People always talk about being one or the other. You're either creative or you are the corporate professional, and you've managed both incredibly well. Is there a trick to this? Is this just a God-given talent? How are you doing this?
Well, one of the things I've always prided myself on is versatility. I'm a basketball fan, so my son Jordan, my son's name is Jordan for Michael Jordan, but my favorite player on the Bulls at that time was Scottie Pippen because he could do everything. He was a great defensive player. He was an offensive player. He was a passer. He could do everything. And maybe that's not realistic because you can never be great at everything. You can be really good at a lot of things. But I like the versatility. I like being able to say, I know how to do a little bit of podcasting. I know how to do this thing. I know how to record. I know how to voice. I know how to work with people when we have to work with numbers at work. I like being able to be versatile and be a resource in multiple ways.
I think that's what brings you joy.
Yeah. And I can tell you've got to give yourself more credit because versatile you most definitely are, my friend.
For sure.
You are great at a lot of things. I know that firsthand, not just from knowing you through the voice community, but also from working with you in the booth. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. And tell us how our listeners can get in touch with you and find out more about you.
Well, my website is voevolution.com. So you can find me there. They can find me on Facebook and on LinkedIn as just my name, George Washinton III.
From all of us at the V.O.S.S podcast, have a kick-butt week, guys. Stay focused and rock your business like a boss.
A VO boss. And don't forget, you can see us live at the Voxy Summit in January. Register at voxysummit.com.
Like us on Facebook at V.O.S.S podcast and Twitter at VO_boss. And subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube.
Visit us on voboss.com for our new Boss University, where we've got classes and products as well as other exclusive offers for you guys. Take care. Have an awesome week. Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.
Join us next week for another edition of V.O.S.S with your hosts, Anne Ganguzza and Gabby Nisterko. All rights reserved. Anne Ganguzza voice talent in association with 3 Moon Media. Redistribution with permission. Coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.